Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this presentation about using memes to engage with students in teaching criminology. And with us today, we have Professor Gina Fox, who is an associate professor in criminology and recognized as a university distinguished teaching fellow and senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy, as well as winner of the British Society of Criminology's National Award for Excellence in Teaching Criminology and Criminal Justice. She is also the Deputy Dean of Education for the College of Social Sciences, Arts, and Humanities at the University of Leicester. She has a very long CV, and I'm going to read it all, but you can take a look at it from the program website. I will give you now the Professor Gina Fox.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited to share this presentation with you and excited to hear your thoughts at the very end. Yeah, I'm going to get straight in there so that we have a bit of time for discussion at the end. But I've titled this presentation Memories, playing on the word memories, engaging with digital natives. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I've engaged with my students using memes over the last year and a half, which I found to be very useful. So the plan of action is to give a little bit of background about it, into why I introduce memes, how I introduce memes, what students thought about the inclusion of memes, and then what I'm going to do moving forward and hopefully get you a little bit involved in that too. So when I give this presentation at a national conference, it must be about 6 or 7 months ago, I was told that I should have put this slide in at the very beginning. So I've done that this time, and it's your opportunity to share a meme so that you can kind of reflect on what we've done in this kind of presentation. So a little bit of active learning, if you like, while we're going through this presentation. So if you want to take a photograph of that QR code so you have it for later, and you can be looking at it while I go through this, then please feel free to do so. And the password for it is Gina Meme. To add onto the Padlet, I don't know if any of you have used Padlets before. So the QR code is there. The password is Gina Meme. You can see there's a little arrow at the bottom right-hand corner, which will give you an opportunity to add your attempt at a first meme if it is indeed your first time. So first of all, what exactly is a meme? Some of you might be really familiar with the idea of a meme, and some of you may not be. So what does it mean? What is it about? How does it relate to education? This is Mr. Bean. I don't know if any of you have heard of Mr. Bean before, but he's used a lot he's used by a lot of our students. He's a comedy actor, yeah, it's kind of like this idea. I think some people, I've heard of memes, but I'm not really sure what it actually means. But here we have a definition from 2007. Internet memes are the act of rapid dissemination of a specific non-notion expressed as a written text, image, or some other unit or of cultural stuff, videos, melodies, images, or dances. Meme making then can be really useful and really effective in engaging students and enhancing the learning environment. Tidy and a load of colleagues came up with that kind of definition, if you like, and it's really true. It can be really effective in engaging our students. So setting the scene then, just a little bit of background about why I introduced memes in my classroom. A lot of the time I felt, not a lot of the time, but some of the time I should say, I felt as though sometimes students might be there physically. They might be sitting right in front of me in the lecture, but their minds might be elsewhere. And sometimes I think we dip in, don't we? We're in meetings ourselves and we kind of dip into the conversation and then we kind of think, oh, I meant to do that work. Did I send that email? So our head kind of can be elsewhere. So student engagement is an issue. Staff engagement is an issue too. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But it's an issue when we look across the problem around all institutions across the country, across the globe. Engagement or lack of engagement impacts on so many different factors such as retention, attainment, progression, employment, further education. And it also impacts on what's going on in the room, the atmosphere within the room, the learning experience that the other students have, as well as rapports and that sense of community. So engagement is really important. So enhancing that in any way possible is definitely useful to each and all of us. You may know this already, but 75% of individuals aged 13 to 35, and 79% of those aged 13 to 17 regularly share memes. So a huge number there of the 13 to 17 and indeed 13 to 36-year-olds engaging in the use of memes or the sharing of memes quite regularly being used quite generally there. But when you dig into that a little bit, it could be daily or weekly basis. So what I decided to do was try and bring memes. If this kind of group of people, this age group of people, is engaging in the use of memes, texting them to their friends or family, and kind of engaging with them quite regularly, then why don't I try and bring that into a module that I'm delivering? So this is an MSc module called Rethinking Punishment and Rehabilitation. I suppose a module that's very topical or used in quite a lot of criminology degrees across the country, across the world. So I decided actually this could be a really useful one. It's not the biggest cohort of students, so it might be a nice size to kind of give me a go. So what I decided to do was to use memes in a competitive type of way. So what I said to my students is you have to re-listen to the lecture once we've had it, and then you come up with a key aspect that you took away from the lecture. You can use any images or any text, provided it's obviously not offensive, and then you submit it via a virtual learning environment called Blackboard, using a discussion board link. And then we'd show the links, the meme, sorry, at the beginning of the next lecture, which helped us kind of recap, if you like, over what they'd done the week before. But also it gave me kind of an insight as well as to what they were kind of taking home from last week's lecture. And then I would give a prize at the end of the module for the best meme, which the students, we had kind of like a meme gallery. So I printed out all of the different memes, put them all around the classroom, and then we had a competition identifying which was the best meme and why. So you can see there my attempt of creating a meme. Don't know if you're aware of SpongeBob SquarePants, but a cartoon character where he's saying my knowledge at the beginning of rethinking punishment and rehabilitation. And you can see there he's quite, well, not as well built as the second image, let's just say, my knowledge of rethinking punishment and rehabilitation at the end of December. So yeah, so that was my idea, kind of getting them introducing them to the idea. So student engagement then, in terms of one of our kind of discussions or topic areas was global punishment, and this just gives you an idea of the type of content that the students were coming up with. So you can see here, when we were talking about reoffending recidivism rates in different countries, you can see there that the card was reduce the incarceration rate or draw 25 cards. You can see there that person who's drawn quite a lot of cards in the United States. And then you got a comparative kind of meme here that says United States prison, overcrowded prison, and then looking out on Norway, who are offering 5-star cooking classes and fully equipped recording studios, and they look very happy with that. Here's another example here when we're talking about punitive approaches versus rehabilitation. You can see here UK government with a gun in his hand, shooting somebody there, or it looks as though it's quite dark, normalizing punitive prison policies for decades. And then you can see there a confused look on in the second image saying, why is there an increase in prison overcrowding when we are using these really punitive approaches? Then being very confused as to why are we still seeing overcrowding. And then again, Mr. Bean, as I said, he features quite a lot. Robert Martinson from 1974, waiting for rehabilitation programs to work. And you can see there in the bottom picture, he's lying down nearly asleep, just waiting on the rehabilitative programs to actually be effective. Progress then in relation to, release from prison, progress and release from imprisonment. You can see there, hey dude, why do you always wear that mask? And then it's got on the front of the mask, or the new image, if you like, punishment in the 21st century. A misspelling there with the 21st century, but anyway. And then history of punishment underneath the mask, so just doing the same thing over and over again. And then here, inmate, I don't think I'm prepared to be released back into society. And then the warden slapping him on the face and saying, take this £82.29. Oh, and also find a computer. So not being very understanding of the struggles with reintegration and the actual ability to reintegrate appropriately without the technology that may be needed and the resources. So what I got from the students personally was what I realized very quickly is what parts of the kind of content they were really interested in and what they took away from the lecture. I also understood and started to get an idea of what they were misunderstanding or misinterpreting or spelling mistakes even. Like program in the UK, we would spell it with an MME at the end. So I could start picking up on little things like that, but also like complete misunderstandings of the term, like retribution or reductivism or those kind of key theoretical concepts. An understanding of their humor, a closer connection and a better rapport as a result from that, and better engagement with them moving forward. What the students fed back to me then was when I asked, what did you most enjoy about the inclusion of memes? The shared humor. Humor came up time and time again. They had a great laugh when we got up the Mr. Beans or the SpongeBob SquarePants or whoever it was. We all had a good giggle at the beginning of the class, which really broke the ice and kind of, relaxed us into the environment. For somebody else, it reinforced the main highlights from previous lectures, and somebody else wrote a fun way to incorporate module content. Somebody else wrote, it made learning about the module more interesting. This method actually forced me to sit down and go through the PowerPoint each week or do research online so I could create the best meme possible. And then here, students agreed or strongly agreed with the following statements. The inclusion of memes brought humor and fun to the session. They relieved stress and anxiety. They actively made me reflect and engage with the content from previous sessions. The inclusion of memes from my peers reminded me of other content that I may have otherwise forgotten about, and they helped me build rapport with the lecturer. And then this quote here was saying, I think memes should be used like this by a lot of other lecturers. It's a great way to break the ice, bring some humor into the classroom, and give students a reason to talk to each other and potentially make other friends. And that was something that I realized quite late into the module, that they were sharing their memes with students outside of the module as well, because they were interested to see what meme did you create this week. And then they were actually learning about some of the module content that we were covering, even though they weren't taking the module. So it was kind of like being quite, it had a good reach, if you like, even outside of the module. Then memories, that's where the title came from, because it was actually really forcing them to reflect and remind themselves of different kind of concepts that we covered. So a lot of the feedback, it had the word forced me, and it was voluntary. I didn't force anyone to make a meme. That was quite an interesting word that came up in the feedback. Creating memes forced me to go back over the lecture and think about it more critically. I had to look through everything and find something that stood out to me, making sure it was something that everyone else wouldn't choose to, making sure I completely understood it, decide what my perspective was in relation to the point, and then think about how I could make that point in relation to it being humorous and educational. The memes I made and those made by others do stick out in my mind. I've never done anything like this before. I will never forget doing it. It was fun, different. I will always remember it in a positive light. So even that memory, kind of that positive memory, but with the blue quote is more about really forcing them to have that critical, analyzing it critically as a result of having to create a meme from doing so. Then the advice they give to other students was, one, there, participate. It's so much more fun. It may be difficult at first, however, once you start, it becomes fairly easy. It's also a creative way to reflect on previous lectures and enforce concepts that resonate with you. And then another piece of advice was just give it a go. If you don't try it out, you won't know whether you like it or not. And if you're nervous about sharing your meme with your whole class, don't be. You and the others are in it together, and the only way you'll get through the course is to take part in all the activities and make some friends along the way. So it's quite nice advice for future students. Oh, I've shared that with this cohort of students, and they're trying it out for the first time this year. Busting some myths then. So here you can see some common misconceptions. All students today are digital natives. All students know how to make a meme. Creating a meme is complicated and time consuming, and students won't need teachers to guide them. MSc students reflect on the lectures anyway before the next teaching course. Well, definitely not the case in any of these bullet points from my experience. They're not digital natives. They may have been born where there's ample kind of access to different types of digital technologies, but nobody has ever sat down or they've never given themselves time to sit down and create a meme, for example. So not all students know how to make a meme. In fact, there was only one student out of my whole cohort last year and this year who had ever made a meme before. So it was their first time in the module. They all thought, oh God, I don't even know where to start. It's really complicated. Where should I start? I don't know. It's going to take time. That's not the case either. Students won't need teachers to guide them. Yes, they will, but it's only minimal guidance. It's only kind of like what I'll share with you today. So it's not that much more time consuming for a member of staff to show them either. And then students reflect, and particularly we have this idea maybe, or I did anyway, that MSc students are so engaged that they're reflecting on the lectures I give for the next teaching session in case they've missed something or misinterpreted something, but that's definitely not the case either, because I found out for the first time that this kind of activity was forcing them to do that, which they weren't doing beforehand. So that might be shocking to some. So have a go yourself. Create a meme based on this presentation. So the steps, and this is the kind of guidance that I would give my students, decide on a theme. Identify a theme you want to focus on, whether that's something that I've delivered today, but if you were teaching, say, rethink of punishment or rehabilitation, it could be theoretical philosophy, it could be a theory of rehabilitation, it could be something to do with reducing reoffending, it could be short-term sentences, long-term sentences, it could be capital punishment, it could be whatever theme they want to focus on or whatever you focused on in your lecture. Choose a meme generator, for example, Canva or Image Flip meme generator. Image Flip seems to be quite a popular one for my students. Then choose an image. There's so many really cool images to choose from, and that seemed to be actually feedback from students and from me, is that often you're scrolling for ages to find the perfect one that really portrays what you're trying to say. So that's, if anything, the time consuming, wanting to be wanting to choose and find the perfect image, and then you simply add the text that you're trying to, the point you're trying to make. So here's meme generator, for example, on Canva. So you can pick an image here. So before coffee, you've got a grumpy looking cat, and then after coffee, you've got a cat that's very, very alert and ready to go. And so it's really, really simple just to change the text and then download it and upload it later on. Or here you can see, I don't know what you are talking about. I've no idea, very grumpy face. And then, I get it. It makes sense. So yeah, so this is the slide I showed at the very, very beginning of my presentation. I am conscious of time. And then you've got the Padlet link, the password, and that arrow there to add yours if you want to participate in this for the first time. So yeah, that brings me to the end, Daniel. Thank you all very, very much for listening. Please do get in touch with me if you want to give it a go, if you're getting stuck, if you want to hear more about the feedback I've got from students or how I've ran it. I'd be more than happy to share my thoughts and experience with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina, for a very interesting presentations. We have a few questions, and I'm going to read the three of them, but it seems that the three of them are related in one way or another. The first question is from Nikhil Chandranath. Is there any chance to get offended if memes are used? And the other two questions are from Jay Wallace. Did you run into any problems at any point with any of your students in the use of memes? And then he says, I guess part of my question is also, how do you make sure that the meme content will remain appropriate and respectful?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no, the short answer is no. Thankfully, I didn't. And I think that probably has something to do with the cohort that I decided to run this with. So it was an MSc group of students. Age group wise, probably being 21 plus. So I feel like they were probably a little bit more mature than maybe our undergrad students. But yeah, I think the guidance that I give them at the beginning, just talking about like just, be respectful of others and make sure that, and and I also give them the option as well, is if they wanted to share the meme with me beforehand, if they were feeling, is this a little bit, would anybody be offended if I said it like this? I don't mean it in a nasty way or anything. Maybe it might be construed that way. So you can share it with me beforehand and I can help with that. But I also did say that if you are thinking like that, though, it's probably a good likelihood or a possibility that it might be construed in a way that you don't want it to be. So maybe just think about rewriting it or changing it slightly. So no, thankfully I didn't have any experiences with it, and thankfully nobody ever mentioned it. If they did, it was all very light-hearted. Any of the kind of content that we had was all quite light-hearted, and I think it helped because it was really about that kind of module content that we were delivering. So yeah, we kind of kept to the brief, if you get what I mean.
Thank you. Here's one more question from Athena Stafila. When do you use the memes? As introduction to the lecture, at the end for giving feedback, and on what other instances of the lecture?
Okay, so I introduce the concept in week 1 and I say, so this is what we're going to be doing. And as the kind of a starting point, I ask them to create a meme about themselves, to describe something about themselves. And that's the first meme that they ever do. So for example, I put up one about me, who's I've now I remember her name is Dora the Explorer. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah. So it's the fish, and I say I'm Gina Fox, and I'm as forgetful as, what's her name again? And then I get the students to share something about themselves. Excuse me, to break the ice. But then yes, it's every single week. Every week after I deliver the content, whatever theme we're doing, whether that's on backward looking theory, forward looking theory, whatever it is, then they have to create a meme based on the content that I've delivered, and that goes on for, so there's 10 weeks all in all. And so the first week is kind of a little bit hit and miss. Some are kind of getting to grips with everything and figuring out Blackboard, the virtual learning environment. So not everyone participates in week 1, but then definitely by week 3 and 4, I've got a full house of memes. And then everybody contributes up until week 9, and then week 10 we have the kind of gallery competition where I crown the meme champion and give them some kind of prize or whatever it is I have available to me at the time.
Thank you. We have a question from Huva. The question is would you have any advice in terms of using memes to talk in class about sensitive issues, such as racism? Earlier we had a presentation about immigrant shop owners in the UK and how there's metrics that they're being verbally abused, that they're being rejected by their communities. So I guess, I suppose that's part of the question, whether you would have any advice in terms of using memes for current sensitive issues.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because I think most of the use of memes and how I would use them outside of education is really for humor, to make my friends laugh, or to come up with a response that's like giving my feelings about something in a kind of in a funny kind of comedy way. So I suppose it's a lot more tricky when you're talking about very sensitive topics. However, I think maybe the way around that, where students are still being able to express their views and opinions about something, maybe might be from the point of view of the person being discriminated against. So maybe it could be, this is how I'm feeling while you attack me in this way, whether it's verbally or whatever that example was, Daniel, that you give me then. So it could be like, how can you, through the use of meme, through the use of imagery, through the use of text, explain the kind of feelings that this individual would have, as a result of kind of being, subjected to this type of discrimination, racism, whatever it might be.
I guess one of the keywords here is feelings and being aware of what an image or certain type of content, of how it might affect other people. And I suppose it requires all of us to continue to be constantly aware of those things.
Absolutely, be constantly aware of it. And I think that's why if we're able to kind of put that kind of more ownership on the student or the person to kind of really think about the flip side of it, then that might increase the awareness.
Well, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I don't see any further questions here, but feel free to reach out to Professor Fox directly. Her email is in the slide on the screen. So feel free to reach out, and we hope you'll join us for the rest of the presentations throughout today. Remember, all the sessions are being recorded, and we will let you know once they are available for viewing. All our videos are open access and will be available. Thank you for Professor Fox, and thank you everyone for your questions. Hope to see you in the next sessions.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much. Take care.
Thank you. Good day.